Eating my way through the alphabet in New York City. A is for Arthur Avenue, a traditionally Italian neighborhood in the Bronx. This area has been home to tens of thousands of Italian immigrants since the early 20th century. Ask any New Yorker and they'll tell you this is the real Little Italy, not the one down on Mulberry Street on Manhattan's Lower East Side. Today, the neighborhood has a large Albanian, Puerto Rican, and Mexican population as well, but this is still the place to go for authentic, homemade Italian food. Since we're here, I'm gonna give you 4 of my favorite small shops to visit so you don't leave the area empty-handed. Calabria Pork Store, I think they have some of the best sausages in the city. Look up and take home one of their hot soppressatas. You won't regret it. Oof. Perfection.
Gotta get in the video. Say, this is Pete.
Hi, how are you?
This is Pete, he's the owner of Calabria.
He's been here 100 years, all right?
Wow, I mean, is this guy your marketing manager? What's happening here? Let's try again. Casa, della Mozzarella, arguably some of the best mozzarella cheese in the city, but don't skip out on their parmigiano reggiano or their homemade burrata. Borgatti's Ravioli and Egg Noodles, which opened in 1935, grab a box of their spinach and ricotta ravioli to take home. And end your trip at Madonia Bakery. They have amazing breads, but also the best cannolis you've ever had in your life. B is for bagels. Bagels were brought to New York City by Jewish-Polish immigrants in the 1870s. They quickly became a city staple and were made in airless basement shops in Manhattan's Lower East Side. The working conditions in these shops were terrible, and quickly unions were established to fight for workers' rights. The fiercest of these was Union 338. This union was not above halting bagel production for the city entirely, and the New York Times on multiple occasions reported bagel famines across the city. Today, the New York City bagel has become ubiquitous with the city. Some say it's our water that makes our bagels the best, but who's to say? A classic New York City bagel is boiled before being baked. The best bagel order to get while you're here is an everything bagel, not toasted, with scallion cream cheese, lox, capers, red onion, and tomato. For a great bagel, there is of course Russ and Daughters, but be warned, on weekends, this place is a zoo. So let me alternatively recommend Zuckers on 41st and Lexington. It is my go-to spot. And I mean, look at this beauty. C is for chopped cheese. Here's what it is. Ground beef patties that are chopped up and cooked with a blend of onions and spices on a flat top grill. American cheese is melted on top, it is scooped up, placed on a hero, and served with lettuce, tomato, mayo, and ketchup. The sandwich shot to a wider cultural fame when it was featured on Anthony Bourdain's show Parts Unknown. And from there, the rocky road of food appropriation took form. Whole Foods started selling its own very expensive version of it. Chef April Bloomfield started selling an improved version of it, but this is not a sandwich that needs improving. You'll find these at bodegas across Harlem and the Bronx, but if you want a real, authentic version, let me recommend Blue Sky Deli. This is the birthplace of the chopped cheese. It's on the corner of 110th and 1st up in Harlem, New York, formerly known as Hajji's.
Welcome to Hajji's.
It was believed to have been invented here by a man named Carlos Soto. It's so good. The bread is soft and toasty, melted cheese, the mayo and ketchup combo with the lettuce and I mean, it's a perfect sandwich, just like New York. D is for delicatessen. A delicatessen is a deli, but not the way we think of delis today. In the 1880s, German immigrants arrived in New York City and some of them opened up small specialty food shops that they called delicatessens. There, they sold sausages and other foods from their home country. When Ashkenazi Jews arrived in New York City, they did the same, only their shops were kosher. In place of pork sausages, they sold pastrami and corned beef. These delicatessens were a place where the local Jewish community could relax, hang out, eat their cultural food, and they became ubiquitous with the New York City foodscape. According to the New York Times, in the 1930s, there were over 1,500 of these Jewish delicatessens. Today, however, there are less than 20. Some big hitters that still remain are the 2nd Avenue Deli, and of course, Katz's Deli, which was founded in 1888. My favorite place is Sarge's Deli on 36th and 3rd. When you come here, because you should, this is what you should order. Pastrami on rye with mustard and a half sour pickle, a side of coleslaw, and a matzo ball soup. You will roll out the door, but you will be happy. Oh God. It tastes like heaven. Fatty, a little bit spicy. The rye bread is perfect. It's a perfect sandwich. E is for egg cream. Whoa. Despite its name, the egg cream has neither eggs nor cream. The basic ingredients are chocolate syrup, but it has to be Fox's You Bet chocolate syrup from Brooklyn, whole milk, and seltzer. So why is it called an egg cream? There are a few thoughts, but an interesting one is that it's the transliteration of the Yiddish ik cream, which means pure sweetness. But it kind of sounds like egg cream. Ek cream, egg cream. Can you hear it? The drink was believed to have been created in the early 1900s by a Jewish candy shop owner named Louis Oster. Legend has it that he sold 3,000 egg creams a day. That's crazy. A good egg cream has a bit of the head on top, and it has a very interesting taste. I'm gonna be honest. It's somewhere between a milkshake and chocolate seltzer. If you're looking for a great place to get one, I recommend Old John's Launchonette on 67th and Amsterdam. It's very close to Lincoln Center. Snap a photo in front of the Met, and then pop by here for your first egg cream. I think I like it. F is for fried chicken and waffles. Fried chicken and waffles first appeared in Harlem, New York at a place called Wells Supper Club. It was located here on Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard between 132nd and 133rd Street and was opened in 1938 by Anne and Joseph Wells. It was located near the famous Apollo Theater, Bill's Place, where Billie Holiday was discovered, and the Savoy, where Ella Fitzgerald got her start. So when performers such as Duke Ellington, Sammy Davis Jr., Nat King Cole, and Billie Holiday finished their sets, they headed to Wells. This breakfast-dinner hybrid came about because they arrived around 2 a.m., so this was the compromise of the fried chicken for dinner that they missed and the waffles that they would be having for breakfast. Since Wells shut down in 1982, I recommend this spot, Amy Roos on 116th and Malcolm X Boulevard. Come up to Harlem to learn the history and stop by Amy Roos for the best chicken and waffles you've probably ever had. Oh yeah. G is for General Tso's chicken. The story actually begins in China with a chef named Peng Chong-Kui. In 1949, when Mao Zedong came to power, he fled to Taiwan, where he invented General Tso's chicken, or his version of it. But the version I grew up with, this version originated here in New York City with a man named Wang Songting, but they are related. So it's 1971 and Chinese food is taking New York City by storm. Wang Songting wanted to compete, but needed to do something different. So he went to Taiwan because it had become a hub for classical Chinese cuisine. There, he tried Peng's General Tso's chicken and surprise, surprise, he loved it. Returning to New York City, he adapted the recipe. He cut the chicken pieces up smaller, fried them, and put them in a sweeter sauce. And he named it General Ching's Chicken. This was all fun and games until Peng arrived in New York City only to find his dish had preceded him. Both Peng and Wang's restaurants have since closed, but if you want a great serving of General Tso's chicken, I recommend Hunan Delight on 78th and York. Plus, you'll be close to Central Park to walk it off afterwards. Cheers. It's sweet, it's crunchy, it's delicious. H is for hot dogs. An iconic street food in New York City, it's believed that these were originally called Dachshund sausages by German immigrants who sold them on the streets in the 1860s. In 1871, a German man named Charles Feltman opened the first hot dog stand on Coney Island. Unfortunately, in this case, being the first doesn't make you the most memorable. In 1916, a former employee of his, a Polish immigrant named Nathan Handworker, started his own hot dog stand. He called it Nathan's Famous. Back then, hot dogs only cost a nickel. He also started the 4th of July hot dog eating contest, which continues to this day. The current champion, Joey Chestnut, ate 63 hot dogs with buns in just under 10 minutes. Whew. Now you can find hot dogs all over New York City. The best way to order it, in my opinion, is with sauerkraut, sauteed onions, and spicy mustard. That's it. As a self-proclaimed hot dog connoisseur, I wouldn't say that Nathan's is the best hot dog in the city, but it's a solid 8 out of 10. Crap. I is for Italian ice. Italian ice is like the twice removed cousin of Italian granita. Granitas have a rougher texture, whereas Italian ice is much more whipped and smooth. The dessert was developed by Italian immigrants, most of whom came to New York in the early 1900s. As a kid growing up here in New York City, Italian ice was always a favorite summer treat of mine. There aren't many spots left in New York City making Italian ice the old school way, but one place in Corona, Queens is keeping the tradition alive. The Lemon Ice King has been on this corner making Italian ices since 1944. They are a true neighborhood legend. All of their ices are made with water and fruit. That's it. And they have tons of flavors to choose from. Now, obviously, they are known for one.
Of course, it's lemon.
Tastes like my childhood. The best part is when it's all melted down and there's the liquid at the bottom. That's the good stuff. But if you want to go rogue, we asked Mike, the current owner, what he recommends.
If you want to go rogue, peanut butter.
All right, let's try peanut butter. There's actual peanuts in it. You know what, Mike? You're right. It's pretty good. This is pretty good. I'm shocked.
Should have been more enthusiastic.
I was ready to hate on this one. Lemon is still my favorite though.
No, mine as well.
Lemon is still the way to go though. J is for Jamaican beef patties. In the early 1900s, New York City saw a massive influx of immigrants from the Caribbean islands, places like the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Jamaica. Today, New York has one of the largest Jamaican American populations in the United States, and that's where the Jamaican beef patty comes from. It was brought to Jamaica by Cornish traders who were dealing in sugar, enslaved people, and spices in the 17th century. Over time, the pasty evolved utilizing local ingredients and flavors, which is the dish we have today. The yellow color on the pastry shell comes from turmeric, and the inside is diced beef with Scotch bonnet chilies and lots of other spices. The best place to try it in New York City is at Kingston Tropical Bakery in Wakefield up in the Bronx. When you come here, you absolutely have to get one of their beef patties, but don't miss out on their cocoa bread. It is soft, fluffy, and tastes like a dream. Also, pro tip, this place is cash only, so come prepared. Oh my God. You can see the English influence, but this is a fully Jamaican dish. It is spicy and the meat is packed with flavor. It's perfect. K is for knish. A knish is a traditional snack from the Ashkenazi Jewish community. It is a dough that is rolled out, stuffed with fillings, traditionally potato, and then baked. You can find knishes all around the city, especially at push carts outside of museums, but for a truly great knish, worthy of the name, you have to go to Yonah Schimmel's Knish Bakery. It's located at the corner of Houston and Forsyth on Manhattan's Lower East Side. The bakery was founded in 1890 by Yonah Schimmel, a Romanian Jewish immigrant, and is one of the oldest operational knish bakeries in the city today. If you come here, you of course have to get the potato knish. It is a classic. Yum. Soft and peppery and potatoey. But let me also recommend their kasha knish, which is stuffed with buckwheat. And if you want to finish on a sweet note, get the apple and cheese knish. It is delightful. L is for lox. In letter B, I told you about the best way to have a bagel, and that included having it with lox. While lox is technically salt-cured salmon, when we talk about lox in New York City, what we actually talk about is a type of smoked salmon called Nova salmon. In New York City, most of the smoked salmon, or lox, that you'll get actually comes from here, Acme Smoked Fish. It's been in one family for 4 generations and was started by a man named Harry Bronstein, who was an immigrant from Russia in the early 1900s. The smokehouse is located in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, and is the largest purveyor of smoked fish and herring in the country. If you live in New York City and you've been to places like Russ and Daughters or Barney Greengrass on the Upper West Side, you've eaten their fish. But if you live outside of New York City, you can get it at places like Costco, Kroger, even Whole Foods. I spoke to one of the current owners, Adam Casa, the great-grandson of Harry, about what he recommends you try if you come here.
Probably the right place to start is by trying smoked salmon. It's the classic adornment to bagels that you see people eating all around the city. The next step would be to try your hand at whitefish salad, Whitefish salad is a great dip with crackers. It can be combined with smoked salmon. It's creamy, it's smoky, a little salty, but it's irresistible. Probably third for the more adventurous smoked fish enthusiasts. Pickled herring is a classic. It's available with like a wine sauce or more of like a vinegary, sweet, salty brine or a cream sauce. It's an acquired taste, but for those people who love pickles, it's definitely a can't miss opportunity.
If any of those fishes interest you, an insider tip is to come here on Fridays for what they call Fish Fridays. You can buy all of the fish directly from the smokehouse, super fresh and super delicious. Starting with some Nova salmon. So creamy. This doesn't have a fishy taste, it just tastes smoked and salty and delicious. I have not had whitefish salad in a while. Super creamy, very light and delicate. I should eat this more often. That's good.
M is for mofongo.
Mofongo is a Puerto Rican dish made of mashed garlic and fried green plantains, which are mixed with pork rinds that you might know as chicharron. It is often served with a bowl of broth that you will pour over the top of the dish. Puerto Rican food has a large presence here in New York City as Puerto Ricans began immigrating in the early 19th century. New York City today is one of the most culturally important cities outside of San Juan for the Puerto Rican community. The history of mofongo has roots in Africa. Enslaved Africans were brought by the Spanish to Puerto Rico and the Caribbean at large. And you can draw a clear line from mofongo to fufu, a mashed plantain dish common in Ghana and Nigeria. Fufu became mangu in the Dominican Republic, mofongo in Puerto Rico, and kept its name fufu in Cuba. So where should you get mofongo in New York City? Let me recommend Casa, della on Manhattan's Lower East Side.
My grandmother started this back in the 70s. She's been here since the 70s until her passing in 2018. The menu is still the same as when she was alive. We sell traditional Puerto Rican dishes. It's a family-run business. We do have outside help, but they have been around for years, so it's like they're also like family. There's not too many Puerto Rican restaurants left in New York City itself. We're one of the few. That's something we try to hold on to.
Here, order it with a side of pernil, a roast pork dish, and pour the broth all over the top. You will be on your way to Flavor Town. Oh my God. My God. That is perfection. You can really taste the garlic in the plantains. The broth is truly the magic sauce, and the pork is just perfect. Yum. N is for nuts. New York City is not a city that you want to be downwind of anything, unless it's the Nuts for Nuts cart. Unlike the hot dog, nuts are a relative newcomer on the street food scene in New York City. They arrived in 1984 by way of Argentina, but they really took off when this man, Alejandro Rad, started the Nuts for Nuts cart in 1993.
This is the best product in New York City, honey roasted nuts. Here, it's ready for you.
In Argentina, these nuts are known as Mari Garipanada. Today, they are ubiquitous with the New York City street food scene, and you will find them in carts all across the city. There are tons to choose from, peanuts to pecans, almonds, cashews, and they are all made fresh in copper pots. Deliciously sweet, crunchy, and sticky, like stick in the back of your molar sticky. My favorite are the honey roasted peanuts. I like to keep it classy when I'm standing on a street corner eating a bag of nuts by myself. O is for oysters, New York's original street food. When Henry Hudson first came to New York in 1609, there were nearly 220,000 acres of oysters, accounting for nearly half of the oysters in the whole world. It's hard to imagine today, but in the early 19th century, oysters could be found on corner carts being shucked for a penny apiece. They were so common, in fact, that the poorest New Yorkers lived on bread and oysters. As New York City grew, the Hudson River became a dumping ground for not only pollutants, but raw sewage as well. And in 1927, the oyster beds of New York City were shut down. They were too contaminated to be eaten. With the passing of the Clean Water Act in 1972 and changing behaviors, by 2000, oysters were once again thriving in the Hudson River. A local group called the Billion Oyster Project started to get more oysters back in the Hudson River. And it worked. In 2010, whales were spotted again in New York Harbor, and this past summer, a pod of bottlenose dolphins were spotted swimming. The Hudson River today is the cleanest it's been since the 1860s. And while you can't eat oysters from the Hudson right now, there are plenty of places around the city to get them. If you're here in the spring, summer, and fall, let me recommend Grand Banks. It is on Pier 25 on the Hudson River. It is a beautiful boat, and the oysters, mwah, they are delectable. P is for pizza, in particular, the dollar slice pizza. Here in New York City, we eat New York style pizza. That's gonna be a thinner crust, spiced tomato sauce, and a low moisture mozzarella cheese. In contrast, Neapolitan pizza has a much chewier crust, non-seasoned sauce, and fresh mozzarella cheese. Pizza in New York City was originally made in coal or wood-burning ovens, but in 1934, an Italian immigrant named Frank Mastro was part of the team to develop the first gas-burning oven. The temperature in gas ovens is much lower, and it results in a drier pizza. So what does that mean? It means that pizza for the first time could be sold by the slice and reheated. In 2008, during the economic recession, dollar slice shops started exploding around New York City. Sure, the pizza quality dropped, but these small shops were going through over 400 pies a day. Today, in 2022, the dollar slice is a bit of a dying breed. You'll find mostly $1.25 or $1.75 slice shops, but near Grand Central Station on 43rd and 3rd is 99-cent fresh pizza. Every slice is still just a buck. Is it the best pizza in New York City? No, but for $1, it can't be beat. Q is for quahog, a type of large clam. The word quahog comes from the Narragansett tribe, who are descendants of the indigenous people from the state of Rhode Island. The Narragansett would eat these clams, but also carve their shells into beads and use them as currency that they called wampum. A popular spot for clamming was Gowanus Creek. Today it is called the Gowanus Canal. However, clams are no longer sourced from here, as it's one of the most polluted bodies of water in the United States. But for amazing fresh seafood, take a little road trip to City Island. Most New Yorkers have never even been here. Located on the edge of the Bronx, it's surrounded by the Long Island Sound and Eastchester Bay, and there is still a long tradition of harvesting shellfish here. My favorite place to go on City Island is Johnny's Reef. It's also one of the most affordable spots for seafood in all of New York City. They have an entire clam menu where a half dozen is only $7, $13 for a full dozen. So you can really go clam here. This is my first time having a raw quahog clam. Okay, here we go. Cheers. It is salty, sweet, and very meaty. If you're looking for an authentic place in New York City to have clams, City Island is the place to go. R is for rye whiskey. When Dutch settlers first arrived in New York in the 1600s, they brought with them rye, which was well adapted to the local climate and grew in abundance. And where there's rye whiskey. There are records dating back to the 1780s showing that men enlisted in the US military got 4 ounces of rye whiskey as a part of their daily rations. By the 1820s, the Midwestern and Southern states began producing bourbon, dropping the price of whiskey to 25 cents a gallon, making it cheaper than milk, wine, beer, tea, and coffee. But the heyday of whiskey came to a halt in the 1920s with Prohibition. The rye fields of New York ceased production, and by the 1930s, with the repeal of Prohibition, it was too late for New York rye. Southern bourbon became the dominant variety. Here at Kings County Distillery, one of only 6 distilleries in New York State, they are reviving this lost tradition.
We've been making rye since about 2015. Rye whiskey died with Prohibition, hadn't come back to New York State until a group of small New York distillers got together and said, we're gonna bring it back and we're gonna call it Empire Rye.
Empire Rye is made from 80% New York Danko rye and 20% English barley malt, and it's aged for 2 years in charred oak barrels. It has flavors like cinnamon, nutmeg, maple, mint, and a bit of clove. However, if drinking straight whiskey is not your speed, I hear ya, let me recommend a classic Manhattan. 2 parts Empire Rye, 1 part sweet vermouth, 3 dashes of bitters, stir it well, and serve it in a chilled glass. I mean, why not? Ooh, this is good. S is for soft pretzel. The pretzel dates back to 610 AD, but its arrival in New York City was not until the early 1800s. Brought first to Philadelphia, whatever, they were an instant hit amongst laborers, along with other popular street foods like oysters and pickles. What makes a New York pretzel unique is that it is always salted, has a hard, shiny exterior, and a soft, fluffy center. If you can get them with mustard, I highly recommend it. Yeah, we got it. And a bottle of water, because these salt crystals are no joke. It's so good. Classic New York street food, huh? T is for to go. Coffee, that is. New York is iconic for many things. One in particular is our to-go coffee cup. If you've seen a movie or TV show based in New York City, you've probably seen this cup. To understand the story of the cup, we have to understand the story of when Greeks arrived in New York City in the early 1900s. They opened up, among other things, diners and coffee shops. This cup was designed by a man named Leslie Buck in 1963. He was born in what is today modern-day Ukraine, survived Auschwitz, and came to New York City looking for a new life. He got a job at the Sherry Cup Company and was tasked with designing a cup that would appeal to Greek vendors in New York City. And he came up with this cup, which he called the amphora, a mispronunciation of the Greek word amphora, meaning urn. The cup is blue and white as an homage to the Greek flag. It is framed with a Greek key pattern, has Greek-style vases on the sides, and uses Greek lettering to spell out the message, "We are happy to serve you." The cup was a hit. It was bigger than a hit. In 1994, over 500 million of them were sold. The New York Times called it the most successful cup design in history. It even has a spot at the MoMA here in New York City. Today, the cup is less common. More often, you'll find cups that look like this. They're a bit of a knockoff. But if you can find your way to a Greek diner or find a Greek coffee cart on the street, you might be lucky enough to get one of these. It's a classic taste of New York. U is for Ukrainian village. New York City has seen a few waves of immigration from Eastern Europe. The first was in the 1880s when the Russian Empire started expelling its Jewish population. The second was in the 1930s and the third in the 1970s. Today, New York City has around 600,000 Russian-speaking immigrants. Many of them live in Brighton Beach, on Brooklyn's southernmost tip. The area is often nicknamed Little Odessa, a city that's located on the Black Sea. This neighborhood is similar in that it's situated right on the Atlantic Ocean. In Manhattan's East Village, between 1st and 3rd Avenues, is Little Ukraine. Here, there are a number of spots to visit, including the Ukrainian National Home that has a great little restaurant in the back, Veselka, a very famous restaurant that's been around since 1954, a Ukrainian Catholic church, and even a Ukrainian museum. One of my favorite places here for authentic Ukrainian vareniki, which is a type of dumpling, is Stricha. You have to walk down underneath this chiropractor's office, so you know it's gonna be good. Each weekend, the vareniki are made by hand from volunteers, and all of the proceeds go to the Ukrainian Catholic Church that you saw just across the street. Get a plate of their potato vareniki with a side of sour cream. Say hello to the owner, Dmitry Kovalenko. He is a very kind man.
I would say this is one of the simplest dumplings to make. It's very simple dough, it's just water, flour and salt. Vareniki is traditionally eaten as a lunch or dinner food. It's served with caramelized onion and sour cream. The history of Ukraine was tough. We just used to utilize the products that we had, like really simple products like potato and dough. For us, we learned how to make a really delicious food out of it. Vareniki is comfort food for me and for every Ukrainian, I believe.
V is for vermouth, the key to a perfect martini, which was invented here in Manhattan. It is widely believed that in 1912, the first dry martini was invented at the Knickerbocker Hotel by a bartender named Martini di Arma di Taggia. The drink was made with London dry gin and white vermouth. The Knickerbocker Hotel, which was built by John Jacob Astor, who, by the way, died in the Titanic, was the height of glamour in New York City and really helped reshape Times Square into the tourist destination that it is today. A fun little fact is that underneath this hotel, in the subway at the Times Square stop on the S shuttle, there is a door in the corner that is very easy to miss. The door is gray with the words Knickerbocker above the top. That door led guests down a long hallway into the hotel's very famous bar. The hotel's opulence was short-lived, however, because when Prohibition hit the city in 1921, the Knickerbocker closed, along with its secret subway door. The building was turned into offices and only recently has reopened as a hotel. The roof of the Knickerbocker has a bar called St. Cloud, and there, order a martini just like they did in 1912. Cheers. Ooh, this is good. W is for white sauce. This is the sauce that comes from one of the most famous street food vendors in New York City, the Halal Guys. What is white sauce? It's one of the many secrets of New York City. People believe that it's half mayo, half Greek yogurt, but the rest of it, no one really knows. For most New Yorkers, halal carts like this have replaced the hot dog as the go-to street food of the city. Some interesting research was done at Queens College here in New York City, where they found that in 1990, over 300 street carts were owned by German and Italian immigrants. They did the research again in 2005 and found that Egyptian, Bangladeshi, and Afghan immigrants ran over 560 street carts, and German and Italians, none. The Halal Guys, which was started in the 1990s by 3 Egyptian immigrants, Mohammed Abulanin, Ahmed El-Sakka, and Abdelbasit El-Sayed, they began with a hot dog cart and moved to serving halal food because a large portion of the Muslim taxi drivers here in New York City didn't have access to the foods that they wanted to eat. There are numerous carts around New York City, even a brick and mortar, but if you want to go to the original cart, it is on 53rd and 6th. Here, there might be a line, but it moves quickly. Make sure to get the white sauce, and pro tip, be careful about the hot sauce. It is hotter than hot. It's so yummy. Ooh, there's the hot sauce. I don't know what's in this sauce, but it tastes dang good. X is for Xi'an Famous Foods. It began in 2005 in a 200 square foot stall in the basement of a shopping mall in Flushing, Queens. It was started by a man named David Shi, who is from Xi'an, the capital of Shaanxi province in northwest China. They are known for many dishes, including their stewed pork burgers, their spicy cumin lamb hand-toured noodles, their spicy tofu, and their spicy cucumber salad. Lots of spicy dishes. They rose to international fame in 2007 when Anthony Bourdain visited their shop on his show No Reservations and loved the food.
This is great.
But Chinese food has shaped the New York City foodscape for a while, despite restrictive and racially biased immigration laws. While large numbers of Eastern and Western Europeans were immigrating into the country, in 1882, Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Act, limiting the number of immigrants from China that were allowed in the country. Anti-Chinese rhetoric was so high at the time that if an American woman married a Chinese man, she would lose her US citizenship. It wasn't until 1943, when the act was repealed, that Manhattan's own Chinatown began to take off. And the Chinese food scene boomed even more in 1972 when then President Richard Nixon went to China and was seen on television enjoying traditional Chinese foods. New Yorkers rushed down to Chinatown seeking those same authentic dishes, and Chinese food solidified itself as part of New York City's cuisine. Xi'an has a few locations. I am in Manhattan's Chinatown on Bowery and Bayard. When you come here, do not forget to get that spicy cucumber salad. It is really fabulous. Yum. Y is for yaroa, a Dominican street food. Yaroa is a dish of French fries or mashed sweet plantains that are topped with spiced beef, chicken, or pork, and then covered with mozzarella cheese, mayonnaise, and ketchup. If it sounds to you like a late night food, it is. Dominican food has a long history in New York City. Some of the earliest settlers here are from what is known today as the Dominican Republic. In fact, the first non-native resident of New York City was a Dominican man named Jan Rodriguez. In the 1960s, after the assassination of the Dominican dictator Rafael Trujillo and the resulting civil war, large waves of immigrants came to New York City from the island. By the 1990s, New York's Dominican population was at around 500,000, and today that number has doubled, making them the largest immigrant group in New York City. There are a lot of amazing Dominican dishes that I definitely think you should try, but for great Dominican street food, let me recommend Antojitos BK in Sunset Park, Brooklyn.
My name is Michelette Diaz. I'm the owner of Antojitos BK. We sell authentic Dominican food. Over here in Brooklyn, we usually have a lot of rice and beans, and I feel like that's Hispanic. It doesn't really speak big on the Dominican culture. So that also inspired me to open up a place in Brooklyn because I was going to the Bronx to get a yaroa or to get mofonguitos or to get mofongos. It's been great to present this kind of food to different kind of people, not only to Dominican people. When I opened, I thought Dominican culture, they're gonna be happy with this, but I was able to make a lot of other people in this neighborhood happy. So it makes me happy.
Of course, order their yaroa with mashed plantains and spiced beef. Get it with one of their mofonguitos, they are delicious, and wash it down with chinola, which is a fresh passion fruit juice that they make there. Get it to go so you can sit on a bench in Sunset Park while admiring the amazing skyline and eating a delicious snack. Z is for Zabar's. Zabar's is a New York City institution and was opened in 1934 on Manhattan's Upper West Side by two Jewish Ukrainian immigrants, Louis and Lillian Zabar. The grocery store quickly became known for two things: coffee and smoked fish. When you walk inside, you will very quickly realize this is not like your typical American grocery store, so let me help you navigate it. On your right, when you enter, is the cheese shop. Marvel at the ginormous wheels of cheese and don't be afraid to ask for a free sample. Follow the store to the right and you will see the smoked fish section. Zabar's has some of the best smoked fish in the city, but do not sleep on their gravlax, a type of cured salmon. It is absolutely delicious. Up next is the bakery. Zabar's is known for their rye and their bagels, but I personally love their homemade chocolate rugula, and of course there is the ever iconic black and white cookie that they make fresh here. Finally, your nose will definitely lead you to their coffee section. Zabar's is known for their unique blends. You can grab a fresh bag of beans to take home or a cup of coffee at their cafe to go. There's obviously a lot to buy here. Either way, don't leave empty-handed. I didn't.